Good things come in small packages. That's the theme of today's video, the High Heroes. The trio of patron immortals of the Five Shires who inspire their followers with their wisdom, experience, and sheer chutzpah. Brinderhin teaches them about the importance of family and loyalty. Coberham protects the sacred artifacts and magics of the halflings. And Nob Nar, who apparently reached immortality in his early 20s, shows that anything is possible for them. There's also Raven, the patron of luck, but his inclusion is a bit iffy as there are more sources of him not being a member than in it. I'll still throw him in for inclusion. Welcome to Mystara. I'm Mr. Welch, and get prepared for little dudes with attitudes. But first, a shout out to a friend of mine who needed a signal boost for his upcoming Kickstarter. Patrick Pullen has put together a host of talented fantasy writers, a few of which have been mentioned on this channel before, for a 258-page collection of short stories regarding the title-locked planet of Tourbalin. Here, magic sustains life on the land of eternal light, and the half where the night is constant, but now the magic that allows life on the planet is waning. If it fails, so does all life. Dark World, The Legend of Lornea features works by Patrick, Gene Raby of TSR fame, and literary veterans like Donald Bingle, Richard Lee Myers, and Richard Canuck. The Kickstarter is launching soon, so head on over and grab a copy when it hits. This isn't a paid advertisement. He gave me a copy of the book, but this is just a friend helping a friend. Now, on with the video. The Five Shires follows a small pantheon. Unlike the other settings that need 6 or 7 halfling gods to provide all their necessary wisdom and guidance, the Shires do it with half the number of deities. The Hin are efficient like that. Each of their immortals performs some great task for the Shires, though only Nob Nar was born when the Shires existed in their current form. Each of the three represents a critical element of Hin life. Nob Nar is young adventuring. Brinderhin teaches the importance of family and responsibility. And finally, Coberham shows the importance of wisdom and learning. As a Hin ages, the immortal they relate to changes, but all three are a significant part of their life. These immortals all respect each other and comprise one of the closest pantheons in Mystara. The first of the High Heroes in chronological order was Brinderhin, who was born around 1500 BC on the continent of Devania, where the Hin were having a terrible time with all the various monsters, who considered them a tasty snack. Brinderhin's father decided it was time to go, leading his people on a journey across the sea to Brune and a new home. This was the first Hin migration. They ended up in the Serpent Peninsula, where they quickly discovered between all the hungry monsters, hostile humans, and land ill-suited for farming, they were not going to be able to create a new land for themselves here. Still, at least it was safer than the Sword Coast. By this point, Brinderhin was now the leader of the Hin and had his people pack up and move east. Thus began the second Hin migration, where Brinderhin showed his wisdom. Unlike the elves who had migrated through here previously, trying to find their own home, Brinderhin first asked where all the mountains were to cut down on the amount of climbing needed. Fortunately, they arrived by sea in what would become the Shires a century later, and decided this was going to be their home. He named it Deepland and built the keep of Farendinel, where Rollstone Keep is now. Back then, his neighbors were the Gentlefolk to the north, and the survivors of the Glantrian Apocalypse.
Give me a bottle of anything, and a glazed donut. To go.
Meaning his people were finally safe. Then he found a Timoran artifact in a cave, couldn't resist the urge to push the blinking red buttons, and found himself flung 250 years into the future. Now the gentlefolk were gone, replaced by the... what's the word that means the complete opposite of gentle? Orcs. And the new Glantrians that weren't thrilled with their short neighbors either. He found his people enslaved by the orcs and started an uprising to liberate them. This got the attention of Coronis, who decided to be Brinderhin's sponsor to immortality. Brinderhin found himself yeeted through time again, now arriving in the middle of Lochtal the Cruel's reign. And again, the Hin started another uprising, called the Second Uprising, unimaginatively. Then Brinderhin got sent further into the future until he arrived at the Kinstrife, with the bickering clans tearing apart the nation. He approached them as Gunzuth the Clanless, helped them defeat their enemies one more time, and became the first and only sheriff who ruled over the entire nation. He achieved his immortality, and at the same time faked his death, thus ascended the first of the High Heroes. Brinderhin represents duty to the Shires, your family, and using the laws to protect both. He is friendly, but pragmatic. He understands sacrifices must be made to protect the Shires, but these sacrifices can be avoided with the right allies and planning. He links the reclusive Coberham and the mischievous Nob Nar together, serving as the ego to the former superego and the latter's id. He is the immortal that Hin pray to if they need guidance on keeping their family safe and their domestic life happy. He was the sponsor of the immortal Finadel, and like the other High Heroes, opposed the immortal patrons of goblins and orcs. Coberham Shadowglint's story is a bit more grounded, but no less important. He is the patron of the Black Flame, the sacred Hin artifact. He was the first keeper in life and was the one to discover the Black Flame under the Black Peak Mountains. He then spent his life studying the magical energy, teaching its magic to his followers, and using his knowledge to benefit the Hen. He used his learnings to provide Grunzeth the Clanless the means to defeat the last of the Shire's foes. He finalized the method to create the Black Flame Crucibles, providing one each to the Shire's clans. Ixion sponsored him, and he earned immortality by making himself incredibly useful to his people. While he didn't have a long adventuring career like the other high heroes, his contribution to Hen culture could arguably be more significant than the other two. Coberham is close to Brinderhin, and while he enjoys Nob Nar's antics, he can't say the two immortals are that close. They respect each other and strive towards the same goals, but their personalities and methods means they don't travel in the same circles that often. He doesn't have any allies outside the high heroes, as he keeps to himself and doesn't mingle with others, even those of his own sphere. He shares the same hatred of orcs and goblins. That much hasn't changed. Then we get to Nob Nar. His history is a bit of a jumble, as it's clearly stated he acquired his immortality on his Yularen, the only Hen ever to do so. While the normal Yularen is just a few years, some can take decades. No one knows precisely what he did on his particular adventures.
Apparently, he had a very good time.
We know he jumped on a ship and started raising hell wherever he set foot. He followed the path of the epic hero, which requires a minimum of 5 years on that path to achieve immortality. I, along with a few other die-hard Mystara fans, believe it took him exactly 5 years to accomplish that. He quickly gained the attention of Sinbad, who sponsored the young Hellraiser. What exactly he did will never be known, because all we have is stories of his Yularen, stories that get wilder with each retelling. There has to be some truth to these exploits, but it's impossible now to tell the difference between what happened and the legend of what happened. Nob Nar is the friendliest of all the high heroes. He doesn't even have any enemies listed. If you stand against him, he's your foe. If you stop opposing him, he doesn't hold a grudge. He's the only high hero still on good enough terms with his sponsor to list him as an ally, and is also close to Arnali, the patron of travelers and messengers. He is the immortal patron all Hen on their Yularen pray to, and even their parents to keep their children out of too much trouble. As the Yularen is inevitable, it makes sense for someone to watch over the younger Hen when gripped by it, especially the guy who managed to reach immortality in his early 20s. Talk about an overachiever. The worship of the high heroes is a bit unusual compared to other pantheons, is because they're considered an innate part of a Hen's life. You are honoring the high heroes by living your life as a typical Hen. They don't have dedicated temples, they share their places of worship with large, open public facilities. The cleric of the high heroes just schedules a worship service at a market, arena, plaza, or inn, and everybody just shows up and listens. There's no reason to build a temple to worship them when an existing structure will do just fine. This is part of Brinderhin's pragmatism bleeding all over Hen culture. Prayers are woven into songs and stories about the high heroes. You don't need to praise them with a sermon. Just sing one of the bawdy tavern songs written about Nob Nar, or share a bit of wisdom passed down by Coberham, or a bit of history made by Brinderhin. Those will do nicely instead. Most people believe the Hen aren't a religious people because of their almost part-time worship of their pantheon. But those people don't understand how the Hen weave their religion into their daily lives. Brinderhin taught them self-reliance. When they do things on their own, they're honoring him. Coberham found the connection between the Hen and the Shires. They honor him when they harvest the crops. Nob Nar showed the importance of striving for excellence. So if a Hen puts extra effort into their tasks, they're following his example. These things don't need to be taught by a cleric or a master. The Hen just know these things from their upbringing. That brings me to Raven. Some sources say he's a member of the High Heroes, but his background says something different. He is an immortal who was once a Hen, but aside from that, he doesn't have much to do with the other three. For starters, he's not tied to the Shires at all. He was born and grew up in Serena's Falcho Fallowguard. He was born with ridiculous good luck, and something that he could never explain. Things just went right for him, no matter how little he tried. What happened was he was always an overconfident braggart, and without hesitation. His personality drew the attention of Tyche, the patron of luck, and she decided to be his sponsor long before he knew she was helping him. She nudged him in the right direction, and eventually he finished the quest to ascend. Raven is actually pretty popular in the Shires, but not as a member of the High Heroes. He is revered by Hen everywhere because of his luck, but it's the same for the heroes as well. He is friends with Nob Nar, but due to Raven's habitual laziness, he's not someone who the other Hen Immortals associate with. Raven prefers to skate by on his good luck rather than work to achieve his goals. It makes sense for him. He's never had to struggle for anything. It's always just happened. In his defense, it means he can help other people when he wants, and his luck will apply to them. But he's unreliable and more concerned with having fun than being responsible. He's just not interested in being part of the High Heroes. And that's something Brinderhin and Coberham are okay with. All three high heroes back the Hen Masters, which is the closest thing they have to clerics, at least in the old rules. They are the only ones that grant Hen spells, which is a bit of a big deal as they traditionally don't become magic-using types of any sort. They provide the Masters with guidance and give them a host of powers, but expect them to use their powers to protect the Shires. There's no Hen Masters in Alphatia or Menrithad, despite their large Hen population. The Masters can be given special permission to leave the Shires and retain their powers, but this is on a case-by-case basis, and even then, usually, once the adventures are over, the Master is expected to return to the Shires. That's the High Heroes. They are a major part of the Five Shires lore, despite their seemingly lessened role. They're an integral part of halfling life, even if they don't have regular church services or a large number of clergy devoted to them. They're the personification of what a hen should be. If someone wants to know how they should act, they just have to see how one of the High Heroes would have done it. Next, we're breaking out the Wolfsbane as we are headed to La Vallée du Loup, or the Valley of the Wolves, or Werewolf Central in Glantry. Until then, remember, it's not the size of the immortal in the fight that counts, it's the size of the fight in the immortal.